If you remember from the previous video, we talked about autoimmune related problems like Hashimoto's that slowly began to damage the thyroid gland. But what happens when we don't have that and it's just the normal hypothyroidism? What can we do to improve our health? On the previous video, I mentioned several things that are helpful when dealing with Hashimoto disease and the issue of permeability. But can I use those tools when it comes to dealing with normal hypothyroidism? The answer is yes, those are going to be helpful, but you want to consider another approach. And that's because when our thyroid gland is working poorly and there is no other issue that seems to be affecting it, we need to do several things, but out of those things, 3 are very important. And the first one is that we need to make sure that we have enough raw nutrients to produce all the thyroid hormones that our body needs. In this case, the hormones that we need are made from iodine and an amino acid called tyrosine. Therefore, it's good to make sure that our body has everything it needs to fabricate these hormones. It's also a good idea to make sure that our body is not lacking selenium because it's essential for thyroid hormone conversion, in which T4 becomes T3. And if you remember from the previous video, we talked about this effect. We can guarantee this by providing our body with proper daily amount of these nutrients, such as consuming somewhere around 100 to 200 milligrams of selenium, about a gram of tyrosine, and 150 micrograms of iodine. The second aspect is that we need to guarantee that our thyroid gland doesn't have anything obstructing its functionality so it can freely fabricate these hormones. One thing to consider here is to manage to try to lower stress levels, given that cortisol will inhibit the thyroid gland, and also making sure that our estrogen levels are well balanced. Number 3 is that we need to stimulate our thyroid gland to make sure that all the raw nutrients are being utilized to produce these hormones. This is because you could have everything you need to produce these hormones, but if our body doesn't have a motive to start the production, it won't do anything because the body likes to conserve energy. And to make sure this doesn't happen, we need to make sure that we do exercise. One of the best exercises for this is high intensity interval training. A good example would be doing 30 seconds of high intensity followed by 30-second rest, and you can repeat this pattern about 10 times and it should be enough. And when it comes to nutrition, it's important to prevent substances that can harm thyroid gland, and those are cereals, especially those high in gluten, soy products, corn, and substances that create inflammation or that perhaps you're allergic to. On the other hand, it's been widely known that those who have a thyroid problem should stay away from cruciferous vegetables. However, the amount that you would have to consume in order for this to become a problem towards your health would be far too high. Therefore, if you have a problem with estrogens and you need to consume them in order to balance those estrogens, do it in moderate amounts. Also, considering doing intermittent fasting does have 2 sides to it, and the reason is complex, but if you have only hypothyroidism and nothing else, then fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8 hours should be more than enough. However, if you have a problem like Hashimoto's or another autoimmune related problem, it's more beneficial to do longer periods of fasting, and that's because fasting is going to help you with the problems mentioned in the previous video, such as gut flora problems, permeability, and inflammation. Now, how would I know if this is my actual problem or not? You might have figured out by now that there is more than meets the eye. Things are not just black and white. While some tools can be helpful at times, in other cases something else must be used. Therefore, if you have any of the symptoms mentioned at the beginning or on the previous video, then I recommend some of the following tests to consult with your doctor, and that is measuring TSH, free T3, and free T4, and this is to understand what is my level of hormone production. Measuring antibodies to understand if this is autoimmune, and for that, measuring anti-thyroid peroxidase and anti-thyroid globulin will help you do just that. And there are other less looked upon, such as reverse T3, which shows us if we're producing hormones that our body is not activating. Another test that is less common but helpful to let us understand if iodine that's in our body is being consumed and being utilized is to measure iodine in urine, and that will help us know if we have a deficit or not. The last test to consider is antibody test to measure the antibodies that attack sodium and iodine co-transporter. And this is because in order for the thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones, it needs sodium for that iodine to be able to enter the gland. The last thing to remember is that about 60% of the people with thyroid problems are never diagnosed. They only have the symptoms because they've never been tested. Whichever your situation may be, take care of your thyroid gland. And like always, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, leave us a comment, and let us know what else you'd like us to cover. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. See you on the next one.